So let's just get this on tape, if you don't mind, given what we know now, and I pray we'll know a lot more, but as of this morning, tell us what happened that day.
So I've got here Senator Johnson's office, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, has been kind enough to send us a preliminary copy of their reporting into the situation. Very fresh, fog of war, caveat right. On all this stuff.
Yes.
Because this is what's coming from them. We are told
and
that—
can I say one thing? I think whatever you think of, I like Ron Johnson, but even if I didn't, he clearly has a willingness to pull threads in a way most senators are not. And he's obviously got some decent investigators on his staff, given what he did with COVID. So
I think he's someone who wants the truth of things.
It does feel that way to me.
And that he with a burning desire. By the way, there are two senators of Pennsylvania. I don't see them.
No, they're not
doing any of
this.
this.
Johnson has people on his, I don't know who they are, but he came up with stuff during COVID that nobody else got. So
right.
I think that we should consider what you're about to say in light of that.
All right, and these are predominantly interviews that were conducted through the local police. And that just right off the start should tell you something, because if Johnson's talking to local police, wait a minute, this is the United States Senator. Shouldn't he have direct access to the Secret Service? Shouldn't he have direct access to the ATF, to the FBI, all of these things? And so as his office has been going through the investigation, they suddenly say, well, yeah, we talked to one guy from the ATF who was sort of there, but then he went dark on us. And we talked to a few people at the Secret Service, and they push us to the spokesman, like you're some reporter. We talked to a few people at FBI, but nothing. And then so local police is saying, whoa, wait a minute, we'll tell you whatever you want to know. So why is it that local police are being more forthcoming than our actual government?
Well, this is why they defunded the police in the first place. It's not because they're against police. They seek a police state. They're against anybody with guns they can't control. That's why they're trying to take your AR. I mean, that's the way to understand
the goal
it.
of defund the police is a national police force,
of course.
Eventually.
Yeah, guys with guns they can control.
And Sharpton has come out and said this.
Obviously. It's so obviously true. So anyway, I keep interrupting you.
So, number one top line, Secret Service did not attend a security briefing that morning.
The morning of the event.
The morning of the event. So, and we can drop back and just explain the whole thing. Donald Trump is having a political rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. This is Western Pennsylvania, about 40 miles north or so of the city of Pittsburgh. On the same day, same evening, Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, is holding a dinner event in Pittsburgh. The context of all this is that the RNC is taking place 2 days in advance of it. And so the RNC is taking place. Jill Biden's got the event. Donald Trump is at the event, both in the same Secret Service field office area. Then there's also a lot of Secret Service down in Milwaukee, where you and I were, at the RNC. So Secret Service is totally stretched at this point. It's not like a normal situation. The security posture, because of this, because of the lack of resources, is much lower. The normal people who would be around President Trump aren't there. His A team, as they're called, aren't necessarily there as much. People are spread to all these different locations. This is the context. We also know that there was a strong theory that President Trump would bring his vice presidential pick to that rally, and certainly this was in discussion, held right on the border of where? Ohio. President Trump that morning, we now know, had a meeting with Senator J.D. Vance, who went on to become the nominee, although that pick was not made until Monday. So J.D. Vance doesn't end up.
Well, I happen to know that was the plan, or one of several plans that was under discussion. That's a fact.
Yes.
And I heard it from like a bunch of different people. I heard it from the campaign. So this was known.
Right. I'm hearing the exact same thing. That and partially the forcing function for that is because the vice presidential nominee must be named on the first day of the convention. Right. And so the idea is, well, why not just bring him to a rally and do it exactly there and have it be? And I haven't quite gotten. Have you heard why it was that they decided not to bring him?
Yeah, I have. And I think it was just a political question. Where are we going to get more bang for this announcement?
Okay.
But I do know that as of, a few days before, that was actively being discussed. It's a long way of saying what you just said, which is that people watching this had every reason to believe that Trump and his VP pick would be there.
So you see, and of course, Rubio had just been at an event in Trump Doral, I think a few days before, and he was someone who was also very heavily lobbied. We can talk about that later, but heavily lobbied for as vice president from a number of people around that same time period. But he had been at a rally in Doral, and yet Trump did not bring him on stage. So a lot of people thought that that was sort of the death knell for that, that potential candidacy. So Trump is holding this rally, and about 10 minutes into the start of the rally.
Wait, first though, the Secret Service didn't even show up at the morning briefing the day of the rally?
Yeah. Right here. Secret Service did not attend a security briefing provided to local special weapons and tactics SWAT and sniper teams the morning of July 13th. So when you're holding an event like this, going back to security posture, typically you're going to need to staff up. So you're going to need extra bodies, you're going to need augments, you're going to need more CS, counter sniper teams, you're going to need all of these things because a huge event, outdoor event since November 1963 has always been and will always be the most potentially fatal event that a politician can hold, of course. And so they know that for one of these outdoor events, the first thing you have to worry about is all the tall buildings, all the tall implements. This is why they're held in fields, by the way, for the most part, rather than like inner cities, because cities would have more vantage points. You've got windows, you've got all sorts of stuff. Dealey Plaza, we can all do the math on this. And so they bring in augments from state police. They bring in augments from the local Butler County Sheriff. They bring augments from the Butler Township Police, and to say, okay, you're going to be working with us. No, every single presidential event is controlled by the Secret Service. And this woman, Kimberly Cheadle, speaking of female leadership, it tells us that, well, these areas were assigned to the local police, and that's just not true. They may have been in areas that were considered outside the perimeter, but the Secret Service has command of every single hierarchy for a presidential visit, period, full stop. So anyone who's brought into this is working through their operational plan. So the CONOP is done, concept of operations would be done by the Secret Service and then disseminated to these teams. However, we're told that at the basic sync meeting that you would have been having that morning, Secret Service wasn't even there. So the local police say, okay, morning of, let's go. It's the like the coach meeting the team before the game.
Secret Service is responsible for protecting Trump.
Yes,
but they couldn't even go to the meeting that morning. So let me ask you a question.
And this is the meeting
that's bizarre,
where
right?
You're going through what frequency are we on, guys? Hey, I'm Jack. Here's Tucker. We're going to be out there. Okay, you got the building. We're going to be in here. So you would be able to communicate. You'd go through a communications plan. You'd go through the basic workflow of the day. You'd go through your pattern of life.
Yeah.
You would mention if you, I don't know, saw someone flying a drone around or something like that. That type of information could be disseminated. Or if there were any local groups that they had an eye on, you might put out a 6-pack or something like that. Hey, be advised, these are some of the things that we're tracking. These are some of the people that we're looking at. If you had something like that, this is the meeting where you would do that. Secret Service doesn't go.
Crazy. Okay. So then what happens?
So local law enforcement was siloed, no direct radio contact because they didn't go to the meeting. They had no way of contacting directly to the Secret Service snipers who were inside. So you've got these police teams outside.
Even during the event, they had no way to contact them?
They had to contact them through an intermediary. So you'd set up a tactical operations center or a communication, I think it was called the Butler Communication Center in this case, or the TOC. So you'd go through the TOC, and then the TOC has a liaison, and the liaison goes to the Secret Service, and then the Secret Service has to go through their liaison back to the TOC, and then the TOC goes back to the police, as opposed to just being on the same frequency and saying, hey, there's a guy crawling on the building.
So who was this guy, and how did he get there? What do we know about him?
This individual, and I want to skip ahead a little bit in the report because there's a lot in this report. Even, by the way, let me say this real quick. Section 5, Secret Service was initially not going to send snipers to the rally, according to local law enforcement.